with this video. Okay, so thank you everybody for being here. Welcome. All right, so welcome everybody to the Visionary Collective. I always start this series with a quote that I love from the former First Lady, Rosalind Carter. A leader takes people where they want to go. A great leader takes people where they don't necessarily want to go, but ought to be. And when we do this, we hope that, I know there's a lot of discomfort and a lot of fear right now, so we're hoping to help and provide guidance for people where they ought to be. For those of you joining for the first time, the reason I created this series is very simple. I started it during quarantine when it first started because I saw all my friends and family really riddled with fear, anxiety, not knowing what was going to happen. And I knew for sure that I wanted to create something where I could pull together world-class minds, world-class leaders who could talk about something that can make their life better and give them direction. You know, so I mean, I myself, I've been upstate for 9 weeks, as I mentioned to our group earlier, and living with 10 people, groups of friends. So it's definitely been an interesting time, to say the least. So that is what initially inspired me. Today's inspiration comes from when I found myself thinking a lot about the fact that all my friends were losing jobs. People were taking massive pay cuts. And the thing that struck me is I felt and realized, like, wow, women are particularly vulnerable right now. This is something that actually could potentially damage the gender pay gap more than it's already damaged and created actually a bigger increase. And so I actually did a little research and I was like, wow, I found that at the end of 2019, women still made only 79 cents to every dollar a man made, which I'm thinking, wow. So, you know, I started putting this together. I reached out to people, I reached out to all of you and started talking about this. Then another article came out in the New York Times where they called it the She Session as like a play on recession. 55% of the 20.5 million jobs lost in April were held by women. And that just solidified for me, like, wow, we really need to create this forum and have this conversation. You know, and then I wanted to think, like, how can we provide a place where women can actually get direction on how to move forward to ensure that they're making the same as their male counterparts. Now, here we have this great group, and we're going to start this discussion. I'm going to read their bios, but the thing that I want to point out about this is I get to brag about them now, okay? But these are the type of women who they don't brag about themselves, right? And they have taken all of their accomplishments and somehow pivot it into how can they make other people's lives better? And I believe that thought right there is the reason, and that is what creates great leaders. I can't even talk. Wow. Great leaders is, how can I make someone's life better? And, you know, I'm going to read these bios, and I think they all speak for themselves, and I'm excited to hear from all of you, but I want our audience to hear this, okay? Alexandra Carter is director of the Mediation Clinic at Columbia Law School, where she is also an award-winning professor and a world-renowned negotiating trainer for the United Nations. She's appeared on CBS This Morning, MSNBC's Live Weekend and Hardball, Marketplace, and the New York Times and Wall Street Journal. Alex is also the author of a new book called Ask for More, 10 Questions to Negotiate Anything. So she's a world-class negotiator, and I'm excited to hear from her. Meggie Palmer. Meggie Palmer founded PepTalkHer with the mission of closing the gender pay gap. The PepTalkHer app helps you track your career successes. It uses artificial intelligence to coach confidence and negotiation and to give you a pep talk when you need it most. Her business, PepTalkHer team, runs corporate programming for companies like JP Morgan and Revlon. Meggie also lectures at Columbia University and Barnard College. And in her former life, she was an award-winning journalist turned entrepreneur. She spent 15 years as a journalist and foreign correspondent, traveling from Syria to Italy, telling stories for networks including BBC World, CNBC, Channel 7, and Vogue. I mean, I could go on for hours about all of you. I had to clip out. I had to like take these things down because there's actually more that all of you have done. Daniella Schlisser is a top producing luxury real estate broker with Brown Harris Stevens in New York City. She speaks 5 languages fluently and has been raised between New York and Vienna. And she studied and worked in Paris. She enjoyed a very cosmopolitan and comfortable life, never expecting to struggle to survive until life threw her a curveball, which she'll talk about in a bit, that left her financially depleted with 3 young children to raise and support and no experience with how to do that. And out of nothing, she developed a successful career, putting all 3 children through private school and college and securing them all a very comfortable financial life. And finally, Marg Helgenberger. Currently on the CBS legal drama All Rise, she starred in the mega hit television series CSI Crime Scene Investigation for 12 seasons, received an Emmy Award for the ABC television dramatic series China Beach, and appeared in numerous feature films, including Erin Brockovich, A Dog's Journey, In Good Company, Mr. Brock's, and Always, and that just is a few. And she is passionate about promoting platforms she believes in, like this one. So now that I've painted this picture clearly, I feel like we're going to be able to cover everything here, from inspiring stories to how to negotiate through to platforms we can all create a community around. And that is phenomenal. So I am going to start with the first question. Can each of you, just in about a minute, can you tell me why you're here and what is it that inspired you to get involved in reducing the gender pay gap? Meggie, why don't you start? And I'm just going to go from there.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I spent 15 years as a journalist, and at one point in my career, I found out that some of my male colleagues were earning more than me, and we were in theory at the same level. And so I raised it with the network at the time, and they said, well, listen, you've got 2 options. If you don't like it, you can quit, or you can take us to court. And so I guess for me, that was just like the moment where kind of like the blinkers came off, and I was like, what? And I just started to realize, like, okay, welcome to the real world. Like, this is what happens all the time. And so I started speaking to people, and of course heard about women who were fired while pregnant or on maternity leave, people that go, 6-7 years with no raise. And it really affected me. And that, I guess, opened my eyes to the issue. And then I was so frustrated that I didn't want other people to go through the stress that I went through. And so I wanted to create something to change it. And so the PepTalkHer movement kind of started. And then, as you mentioned, we launched our free app 12 months ago now with Vogue, to try and help women who go through a similar situation.
Excellent. Thank you, Meggie. And Daniella, why don't you go next?
The topic speaks to me because I found myself sort of as a stereotype of that faith-having, financially unaware woman who had abdicated to a husband, didn't really know what my financial reality was until it smacked me in the face that I actually had no money left. I had been married to a con man is the nice way to say it, I suppose, but who depleted me. And I didn't know this because I had sort of somehow been socialized, even though that wasn't really my childhood, but I'd sort of been socialized that, men make decisions. Men make financial decisions. Men hold financial reign. You just sign and nod and you're fine. And I pulled out of it, thankfully, because I think I had some gifts of childhood that gave me the faith that I could. And once my eyes were open, I was like, well, that's so not my story, or won't be my story moving forward. But there are so many women for whom that is the story, and they find themselves terribly lost, having not taken charge or control of their lives. And as a result of what happened to me, I've been asked to speak at various different, conferences and stuff. And it's incredibly satisfying to be able to share that experience, and certainly with so many women who go through something similar even today, which is shocking. It's shocked me about myself. And that was also sort of my takeaway, is that, even a strong woman, capable woman, multilingual, whatever, there is so much that we sort of just take a back seat to, that is primary for our own survival, and that we're smart and savvy, enough for, of course. So that's sort of a cause that speaks to me.
Danielle, thank you. And Marg.
Well, I guess I wanted to be a part of this because this subject obviously interested me, and as well all of it. I feel honored to be on this panel with all of you. But the thing is about in Hollywood, the jobs are, they're tough to get and tough to hang on to anyway, but it is, I think the Me Too movement really opened up a can of worms. And I have to say, just from the series that I did for 12 seasons, in 265 episodes, there was probably a handful, I could count on one hand the number of women directors we had, and very, very few women behind the scenes. Cut to the series that I'm on now, of the 21 episodes we did this season, I would say more than half were directed by women, plus we had a woman cinematographer, a woman of color as a cinematographer, lots of women in the camera department and other various fields. But so I have to say that there was movement that happened from whenever that was, 2017, I want to say that started. So I take, that gives me hope, and that gives me hope that, I think it's going to be hard for Hollywood to move forward without allowing women to continue to have the same kind of pay grade level that they had been receiving, from that point on. Because it was made such a huge stink about it, with Michelle Williams in that film that she was doing with Mark Wahlberg, which was, very publicized, and she stood up and, everybody kind of did the right thing. But it was pretty shocking when it came out. And that's something that I've sort of dealt with my whole career. I think, Danielle, you were talking about how, sometimes you would go along to get along, just to sort of like, okay, I get it. But it's not just even like pay. Sometimes it's in my business, it's like where your credit is, and where you're on the call sheet, where your number's on the call sheet, and the way an assistant director speaks to you. I mean, all that kind of stuff used to irritate me. And I would speak up for myself. I mean, that's the thing you have to do. When it comes to negotiating a contract, that becomes a whole other thing. And ultimately, it's all about leverage. It's like what the market will bear if you're on a gigantic hit TV show and you're ready to walk away, obviously they cough up the money. So,
Great. Oh, that's great, Marg. Thank you. And I think we lost Daniella. Daniella, are you there? I think we might have lost her. But Alex, please, love to hear from you.
All right, thank you. It's an honor to be here with all of you. So I'm here tonight because I wonder how many people on this call are like this. But there was a time when I was a younger professional woman where I was an incredible advocate for other people and still had trouble asking for more for myself. And I have to tell you that the title of Ask for More comes from a story that I want to share with you. So by this point in my life, this is my early 30s, I was already a conflict resolution expert. I was training people all over the place. I had to negotiate my own salary for the first time. And so I walked in my power suit, totally nervous, and they came in above what I thought. So I had a moment where I composed my face and I wrote it down and I said, thank you so much. I'm going to run these numbers and I'm going to come back. And then I left and I thought, I should accept this, right? So I called a senior woman in my field and I said to her, can I ask for some advice? Just negotiated and they came in above. What do I do? And she said, I'm going to tell you what you do, Alex. You're going to go in there and you're going to ask for more.
That's great.
I'm going to ask for more. And she said, yes, because when you teach someone how to value you, you teach him how to value all of us. And so if you're not going to go in and do it for yourself, I want you to go in and do it for the women who are coming after you and for the sisterhood. And I sat back and I thought, oh my God,
Here she is.
Now I have to ask for more all the time, forever, because I thought that it was a selfish, value claiming act for myself, like a scarcity mindset, that somehow if I stood up and I claimed my expertise and I claimed my worth, that left less for other people. And that is a lie. The truth is, when we stand up and we ask for more, we make more seats at the table for the women who are coming after us. And one final word, Kristen, I want to say something to you.
Yeah.
You read a beautiful bio about me at the beginning, and you said these folks would never brag about themselves. I want to tell you, Kristen, I wrote that. I wrote that in the process of promoting my own book, because I had to learn how to talk about my experience. It's all true, but I find all too often that when women are asked to describe themselves, we give a bullet point list and we don't tell a story of who we are and what we've accomplished. So I want you to know that I wrote those words. I'm proud that I.
Yes. I love it. I love it. That was great. That's awesome. That's excellent. Good, good, good. So then, so powerful stories. Okay. So then let me just jump into this. I was going to jump into, let me jump into this. Then if you were to talk about, if each of you were to give 1 to 2 points, I think we've painted the picture. Let me just say this. We've painted a picture of what things are going on, the experiences we're having and what's important. If you were going to give people 1 to 2 tips going forward, because my concern is, yes, the pay gap is there, but going forward, like, is this going to be an excuse to drop that 79 cents to 50 cents? When companies are trying to, save money, and well, she, it's like, he's got 6 kids and she doesn't, or whatever their excuse is, right? So, what would be 1 or 2 points you would each give to hold your ground, to think about going forward when you're negotiating? Alex, you want to start? I know we just left off with you, but why don't we start with you?
All right, so a couple of tips. I would say the first thing is for you to know that the men will always ask. And that's the truth. Yes. Even in a down market, even when times are tough, like, men will go in and they will always ask. And it's funny, I've been interviewed by a lot of news outlets recently on negotiating through coronavirus, and they say, really, you're advocating for people that they should go in and ask for the promotion? And I say, absolutely, because on the one hand, yes, times are tough. On the other hand, isn't every dollar more valuable? And shouldn't companies and organizations be spending those dollars on change makers who are going to lead us out of this? And haven't there been all of these great stories about how it's women who are leading us, whether they are heads of state or heads of companies, through this recession and beyond? And so I absolutely would ask. And if somebody's going to ask during this recession, I want it to be you. So quick tips. One thing I would do is make sure that you are rock solid prepared. So I'm all about asking yourself the right questions so that you're not going in and just saying help or just saying promote me, that you're there to show them that you have a plan and how your plan is going to benefit them, right? I call this the we. Here's what I'm requesting, and here's how we benefit.
That's excellent. That's excellent. I love that tip. Yes, I love that tip. That's amazing. Meggie, your thoughts?
I love what Alex is saying, and I love what you mentioned earlier, Alex, about how when you had to advocate for yourself, your mentor said to you, you have to do it on behalf of others. And that's a tip that I love to give to people who are feeling nervous or feeling a bit of imposter syndrome about asking, is that, like, you have a responsibility, because if you don't ask, it makes it harder for the next person coming after you. And one of the ways to kind of demystify and de-stress the process of asking is to practice. So I practice with my dad, and I say to him, like, come at me, like, give me the worst you can, like, try and make me cry, ask me all the hard questions, like, let's do this. Because if you, in the safety of your own home, and you've got your best mate or your partner or a colleague who you trust, like, pretending, let's do some role play. Marg, you'd know more about role play than me, but, like, let's do some practice conversations, because they might say no, so what are you going to say? So let's practice that in a safe environment. And then that way you've prepared yourself and your reaction to when you do it in real life with your actual employer, right? And so I just think practicing those conversations, to your point, Alex, being clear on the value that you're adding and having all those data points to advocate and kind of just put some meat on the bone. Essentially, you're not just asking for a raise. Why are you asking for a raise? What have you contributed? How have you benefited sales, culture, whatever it is? And that's why we built the app, was to help you track those little things throughout the year so that when you have these conversations, you've got the dossier of achievements to put forward. So I would say practice, practice, practice. It'll make it a lot less stressful.
Meggie, excellent. Yeah, practice is big, big. Daniella, and the person who we constantly get hit, I want to pay you less than what you're worth. Definitely, right? Oh, you're muted. You know what? For some reason, you're muted. You have to, there you go. Now you're unmuted.
Children had that key, they'd be thrilled. Along the lines of what's been said until now, I think you have to know what your worth is. I think you have to know what your worth is in anything in life, not just in the workplace. You have to know what it is personally as well. So I think you have to trust your own value. You have to rely and remind whomever it is you're speaking with of your track record. You have to be informed on what's appropriate for you to be compensated, not as a woman, but as somebody holding whatever position they're going to hold, or you're going to hold. So from the moment that you are informed, and I think in any situation, information is power, information is confidence, information is strength. You know what you've done, you know what you know how to do, and you know what is appropriate for any human being, male or female, to be compensated in the position that you're about to take on. And I think there's also a piece of having to let certain things go that aren't going to honor you. And that's always a scary thing to do in the moment. But again, there you have to go into that confidence and say, I'm letting this go because it's not worthy of me. It's not right for me. I can't excel in this, and trust that closed door will open up a better door. If you walk into a lousy door and close it behind you, you're stuck in the room.
It's true, yes.
If you don't, if you look at the room and say, this is not a room for me, as scary as that is in the moment, you have to trust that there will be one and demand to have that room that's right for you.
Yes, agreed. 100%. Thank you. Thank you. Marg.
I'm just so impressed with all of this advice and these tips. I'm like taking notes, honestly, ladies. Well done.
Me too.
I mean, I got a second, third, fourth, everything you've said too, in terms of, make some noise, ladies, just speak up for yourself and have a plan. Definitely have a plan. Know your worth. In terms of, an actor, like I always tell students that whether they're college students, high school, or even grade school kids that want to go into entertainment and particularly acting, I always say, well, because there's so much content now and there's ways to create content in so many different ways, platforms, keep a journal, write little short stories, write monologues, TikTok, you can make these little films for, I don't know, what are they 3 minutes long? I don't even know, maybe not even that long. So I always, every actor that wants to, because these days you kind of have to have it all kind of going on, because even though there's more content, it just is more competitive. And I think women do, in every field, I think women always have to try harder. It's just, it sucks that we do, but it's the way it is, and just, suck it up and just do try it. You prove them all wrong and right and whatever, just, show your strength.
Yes.
And your wisdom.
Yes, Alex, please. You wanted to.
Thank you. Sorry. I get so fired up on this topic. I unleashed on it earlier. I did an event for PayPal today, and they got to the gender pay thing, and I was like, we're about to go over. Okay. So I did want to make a note here, because I think a couple of the women, talked about writing down, what you've contributed. And so I just want to take a note here. Marg, you talked at the beginning about women of color, right? And like extra hurdles. And I just want to acknowledge that we have a bunch of white women on this panel. And so I wanted to say, You know, we all know, I think, that the 79-cent statistic is a composite, and that white and Asian women do better. And our sisters of color who are Latina and who are Black, right, fare far worse.
Yes,
and so when I'm giving advice to young women of color who are going into the field, I often say, remember that you will be asked to do a large amount of invisible labor. You know, if you're a woman in a man's industry, you get called in for every promo, right? They want to see your face. You're the female face of that company. If you're a Black woman, you're getting called in twice because you're the diversity face of the firm and you're the female face. And I want people to write down all of the things that they are asked to do and make that visible. Write to your team leader, write to your CEO and say, it's been such a pleasure to do everything. I'm reporting to you everything that I have done on behalf of the company this month. And make sure people know so that that is accounted for and you can ask to be compensated.
Yeah, that's great. That's excellent. You know, actually, it's, you know, just to even point out a question that I have thrown over here, somebody says, you know, men always ask for more. I see it all the time when I hire people. Women always accept the first offer. I no longer let them. This is a woman writing it. I love it. When I'm putting the offers out to women, if I don't negotiate, I encourage them to. If they don't negotiate, I encourage them to. We have to help each other. And that is from a friend of mine, actually, Joanne Swanson. Joanne, nice. You know, that's pointing out, in fact, you know, as I was putting this panel together of our, you know, what we call the COVID family here, that we are in quarantine, there's one guy and then two little boys, right? And our friend Will, who's in finance, he's an entrepreneur, he said every single time he negotiates with women, they never ask for more. They take the first offer and that's it. And he's like, men never take the first offer ever. And so I think that even when we're hiring, you know, we have to encourage women. Let's play this game a little. Let's do this. Let's, you know, without, you know, it's like, let's negotiate. And, you know, there was another question. There was another comment too that I just wanted to say. I think you picked it up, Meggie. I think the CEO from Brown Harris Stevens popped in and you picked that one up, Meggie. Did you want to talk to her for a quick second?
Yeah, this is a comment from Bess, who just said that women typically play not to lose, but men play to win.
Yeah.
And it's that slight mindset shift of like, rather than asking for more as they might say no, walk in and say, I'm so valuable, they're lucky to have me. Let's have a conversation. Do you know, it's not a win-lose. And I think, Alex, your book talks to this as well. It's the we. It's like, I have a lot of value. I have X number of years of experience. This is what I'm bringing to the table, and this is how it's going to affect your metrics. So, like, let's have a conversation about a value that works for you and is really going to motivate me to bring 110% to work. Because as someone who, like, I have a team, I want to compensate people in a way that they are delighted to work hard for me. Because if I underpay them, there might be that level of resentment. They're not going to kind of excel. If there's a call after hours, they're going to be like, forget about it. I don't want that. I want them to say, you know what, Meggie believes in me. She invests in me. I believe in the mission. I want to do this. And so I think actually it's not just, it's not always like companies want to value you. They want to get the best out of you. So asking for more and having that conversation allows the dialogue to begin about that, which I think is great.
Right. Yes, Daniella, please.
Something that I often use, which I have found to be very effective and it's authentic for me, is when I'm asked to take less, which happens, as Kristen said, often in my line of work. I always press for what I deserve and what's fair. And when I get pushback, I say, if I can't advocate for myself, how do you expect me to advocate well on your behalf? Yeah. And it's anybody.
Look at the yes from
and then they just look at me and they're like, oh, because really in any position that you hold, you have an employer. You're supposed to be excelling on the company's behalf, on the team's behalf. If you don't have the strength and commitment and conviction to secure something for yourself that feels right and fair, how can you be expected to be effective on a third person's behalf?
Yep. Okay. I actually, here's a quick one that I think is actually really, first of all, you're getting compliments, which is amazing. I hope you're seeing those. This panel's getting wonderful compliments. I have a question here, which I just want to point out really quick. Would love to hear any talking points the panelists can provide for when you're in a meeting asking for an increase, right? So what are some of the language you can use when you go into the room? And oh, Maggie, you wanted to grab that one. So I'm sorry. I just wanted to point it out really quick because I thought that was that is, we're having this great conversation and a plan to move forward. Just a couple quick talking points even. Maggie, please jump in.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to this idea of practice. So having language, so Alex mentioned at one point she was offered a lot higher than what she was expecting. And so rather than going, oh my gosh, yes, thank you, you want to have those turns of phrases say, I really appreciate that offer. Let me take some time to think about that and I'm going to come back to you in 48 hours. Or to be honest, that's a little under what I was expecting. Let me have a think about it. And I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation. So having those phrases ready that you've prepared and practiced in a way that you can feed back to them so it feels natural, it feels like a dialogue, it's not open shut. I think that comes back to practice and just having that phraseology ready to go.
Yes. I love that because I know anytime I'm going for something, and Marg, you can speak to this, right? Again, you mentioned the role playing, if I've embodied this belief, I'm getting what I want. I have to embody it. And so many times women are told when you embody it and you go for it, oh, she's aggressive or, she isn't playing nicely. Well, you know what? I have no problem telling people the truth, what I'm worth, and how to fix things. That's what we need to encourage each other to do. It's not about cutting people down. It's not about being negative. It's about I know what I'm worth. I know what I can provide you and having total confidence in that. If it was a man, 100%, they would be like, oh, well, he's just being, that's just fine. Okay. And then, they drop the B-bomb. We're a bitch if we're aggressive, right? Because we're smart and we know what we're doing and we want to help. Mm-hmm. We get pushed off into a direction. So anyhow, please go on. I want to hear the rest of the group on this one because I think we're going a little over time. Is that okay? Because this is a hot discussion. It's going well. All right. So please, who would like to go next?
Well, I have a thought on that. A different take on it, especially in my career, where you're compensated for each deal that you conclude. Yeah. Sometimes I get sort of pay by the hour talk. Oh, this won't take you a long time to sell, and so you should take less, and yes. Or you're barely going to do anything here, so you should take less. And I always say, you're not paying me first of all, you're not paying me by the hour, and if I can get it done in an hour, it's because I have achieved excellence over the course of an entire career. You're paying me to get a job done. Yeah. It's not, we don't break it down like that. And so, and I think that I know from that there are many fields that you sort of get peeled down to that, or they try to peel you down to that, compensation for effort invested or time invested. And that's not how people get paid. That's not how we get paid. Mm-hmm. If we're excellent enough, if we've achieved excellence over a career, then we're getting paid for a task well done. Yes. And not nickeled and dimed. Yes. Anybody else want to chime in on that one? Because I actually have an interesting point that somebody made. Did anybody else want to chime in on that?
I just want to, my industry is just so unique in that, everybody has an agent and sometimes managers, entertainment attorneys, publicists. So there's a lot of people that are on the payroll, right? But then they're the ones that are doing the negotiating for you to the studio or to the network. And sometimes you have to, you're not even standing up, you're standing up to your own representative sometimes, just to say, no, this is what I feel like I need, because they're willing to like settle sometimes, so they don't lose their commission, right? Mm-hmm. So I think anybody who, once you get an agent, you're like, oh, it's so exciting, and it's great, when you finally get it. But it's important, again, to know your value and to speak and don't settle for something just because your agent or manager or entertainer, whomever says, I think you're going to lose this job. They're going to go on to somebody else. And that may happen. But if you really believe in yourself and you believe that you're the right person for that job and you know you're right for that part, I think, take the risk and say something to all your representatives to stand up for me.
Right.
not for, I mean, there's a whole thing going on in Hollywood now with the writers. I mean, the writers have fired all their agents because there was a conflict of interest. You know, they were representing, you know, the producers. So how could you negotiate for one person, and then you're still representing the other person? So anyway, I digress.
No, Marg, that's great. It's like not giving away your power just because you're trusting someone to negotiate for you. But
And you might really have a great
really
relationship
responsible for
with
it.
that person.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, I love that. And I will say, you know, I'm now represented by a variety of people. And yet the number of times they've come back and said, this is the point I want to make. They've come back and said, oh, they said no. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. Okay. For men, no is just the beginning of a beautiful conversation. And so I want to empower the women on this call to know that no is not the end of the road. And I feel like now, for the last 2 months, I've become a specialist in turning no to yes. And a lot of times I do that simply by asking a question. My book's all about questions. I might just say, tell me your concerns. Somebody said no, I want to hear your concerns. Because if I know what the concerns are, then I know the target that I have to aim at. And over again, I have found that if you persevere past the no, you could very well get to a yes. And let me tell you, in fact, the more no's you get, the more successful you are, because you're out there trying, you're reaching for the best parts, right? You think about, Marg, like how many no's, you know, you've gotten over the course of a really storied and acclaimed career. The people out there getting the no's, right, are the ones who are stretching themselves. And I want to encourage you to persevere. You can keep going.
Yes, that's powerful, right? Because so many women back off on that first or second no, you know. And Daniella, did you want to say something? I was going to throw one more question to you. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Tailing on what Marg was saying, I think the bottom line is we have to advocate for ourselves, whether we have a representative or not. And that in that dynamic with the representative, we're still having to fight for ourselves. We still have to push back that person then. And you know, we have them in my career, you know, that person who's supposed to be representing or advocating for you and really backs down a bit on your behalf. The bottom line is we can't back down on our behalf. Right. On our own behalf, we're going to have to fight with people who say that they have our best interests in mind and not just accept that as a response. We're going to have to fight back on people who say, oh, I couldn't push that through, or I couldn't get that done, or they're asking you to take less, or they're asking you to negotiate this. Even those people who represent our interests, nobody can represent our interests the way we can.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. So there's two other questions I definitely want to get to, because these are really great questions. From Snev Dorson, who is actually the president of a major pharmaceutical advertising agency, brilliant woman, love her. She asks, is there language to avoid? That's a great question. Is there language to avoid? Who'd like to take that?
Okay, so I want every woman here on this call to excise the words "I'm sorry" from your vocabulary.
Yes.
Apologizing for, can I curse? Okay. How many times?
Yes, you can curse. We're among friends.
We should not apologize for, okay? Let me give you an example. In the process of this book promotion, I interviewed 2 publicists, okay? A man and a woman. Each of them took a while to get back to me. One, the man I wrote on his website, the woman I called, okay? They both called me back same day. The man says to me, I said, by the way, it took me, 5 days to get a response from you. And he said, thanks so much for letting me know. My website must have an error. Uh-huh. The woman calls me back and goes, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I am hot mess this. And I wanted to be like, honey, don't do that. Okay? I want every woman on this call, okay, I want you to take the words, I'm sorry, put it on a paper, crumple it up, burn it, okay, and then throw it out. And instead, I want you to say these words, thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. Thank you for your flexibility. These days, I never, unless it's, to my husband occasionally, I just don't apologize, right? Instead, I thank people. I think it undercuts us so much. The other thing I would not say is, I think. A lot of times people go in, and I've seen women doing presentations and they say, I think. I once pulled a woman aside afterward and I said, you don't think, you know. You are the expert. Don't tell them you think. You just go in and tell them how it is. Okay, so I'm sorry, and I think. I'm done now.
That was good. Good. That was great. That was excellent. I love that. I love
That was.
I wish my friend gave me this big microphone. I wish you had it. You just go boom, you know? All right. It's great. First of all, again, you're getting all these great, compliments, which is wonderful. And here is a great question. Jennifer Bouchot, any advice or talking points to reference when the fact when you have children becomes something or is used against you? This is a big one, right? Like, I'm a parent, everybody here, as far as I know, just whatever. If you don't, you will. And when you have kids, it's, do I apologize? Because my son could have run in here, actually. He's just downstairs. I'm surprised he didn't. But, how do we answer that?
To me, that cuts both ways. I think that women, it sits poorly with me when women use their children as an excuse in the workplace. So I think you've got to set that aside. I mean, sometimes you have something really critical and then you just have to say, I have I have something personal that's taking me away from work right now or whatever. And you say when you'll be back. I will get back to you by 6 p.m., 8 a.m., whatever. But I think that in keeping in mind that we don't want to hear, we don't want we don't want the quality of our work and our value to be diluted by the fact that we have children. We also can't use it. So I think you just take all that and you put it elsewhere. We're all entitled to a private life and it's not part of our work life.
Anybody else thoughts? It's a tough balance. I know that.
Tough balance. I would say, I think a lot of us, this is such a difficult topic, and I think it's shaped a lot by our experiences. I will say, Daniella, I'm fortunate to be in a position of privilege where I'm a tenured professor. Okay. So nobody, God willing, nobody's gonna fire me. Right. And I have made it an intentional part of my work to be open about the fullness of who I am as a person. Right. And I, early on in my career, I had a daughter who had very significant medical problems. And, it's not that I was unloading that on strangers, and I work like a dog. I mean, I work hard all the time. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, if I have something to do that's a therapy appointment for my daughter, mm-hmm. right, I felt it was important for me to legitimize that. And I will say it might be, as I get more senior and the field I'm in, but sometimes I am open, for example, I'm going through this book promotion process, and last week on my publication day, I found out that my father, who's in hospice, was diagnosed with COVID and is not expected to live. No. And I had a choice, to be honest, about whether to share that. And let me say that, I pride myself on being a very powerful presence at the front of a room. I take up space in a room, and I'm only 5'1", right? I take a lot of metaphorical space. But for me, in the line of work that I'm in, it also feels important for the women who are coming after me in law to model that you can be a mother, you can be a partner, and you can also claim time for the important things in your life that you have to do, whether that's caring for a parent or caring for anyone else. So I will say, I try hard to fully back my shit up by working hard a lot, right? And I think maybe that's the distinction that you're talking about, where it seems like people have kind of used that, right? And not backed it up. But it also feels important for me to model, at points in my life that I was I needed to be home for my daughter or whatever. So it's a tough balance, and it's one that I've tried to strike in that way.
Yes, I hear that too.
Can I ask Alex a quick question on
that?
Yeah,
of course, yes.
I am wondering, do you feel that way about non-family related matters as well, or just family?
can you say more? Do I feel what way?
Do you feel do you feel comfortable sharing something that's taking you away from work when it's not family as well? Is it your whole personal sphere that you feel comfortable?
Yeah, I mean, within reason. It's not like I'm saying, let's bring this mediation to a close because I need a Brazilian bikini wax. I feel like that information I could reserve, for people who are going to see the wax, right? But I will say maybe it's just a style. But my leadership style, I would say, is transparency. My hope is that people know that when they're with me, they are in very competent hands. Mm-hmm. And that then what I'm trying to model is, because again, I teach younger women. Right. And so what I want to show people is you work very hard, right? But you can also, sometimes nobody's going to give you permission to take the time off for the stuff that matters.
Right. That's fair. That's fair.
And you are going to have to build that time because nobody else is going to say, take a day off and take care of it.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is like people have different styles, and I think that based on what what somebody's comfort level is, and so I know that I think in this particular scenario with the question, it's when we walk into a room of people we don't, let's shift it up. We don't know. It's a first time. It's a job interview. I am personally someone where I tell you about my life. This is who I am. This is my son. He's like, I love him. It never gets in the way of my job, but it depends on the audience too. I mean, it really depends on the audience of what I'm doing. So it's like, should we be afraid to talk about the fact we have a family, So, and that we are mothers, and that maybe there is, so in this year, and I know that we're all saying no. So,
But talking about sharing who we are, which is part of our total picture and strength, is different than allowing somebody to dilute our perspective effectiveness because of who we are.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. Yes. And I think that's the thing is people will use it against us. There are times, in my career, but fortunately I'm to the point in my life where if you have a problem with me taking off because I want the afternoon because I want to go spend it with my son, I don't want to work for you. It's that simple. But I didn't feel that way when I was 22 or 23 or 25, that was something I grew into as I came into myself and more comfortable. Okay. So I just want to, anybody else want to chime in? You guys, we've actually been on here for almost an hour. That's how fire, and the questions have just rolled in, which I'm amazing, and the compliments. So anybody else want to chime in on anything as we kind of start bringing this to a close?
I just want to chime in really quickly on that one. I don't have children, but I did have a call yesterday from someone in our community who is 22 weeks pregnant, and she lost her job, and then she was applying for some new jobs, and she wrestled with this idea. She had an interview with the CEO. Do I tell them? Do I not? Do I tell them? Do I not? Do I tell them? Do I not? And she thought the interview went really well, and the recruiter was like, you've got it in the bag. We just need to do this quick conversation. She didn't say anything. And at the very end, she's like, I'm just going to tell him. And so she told him, and she's like, I just want to be transparent. I'm 22 weeks pregnant. This is the situation. And she hasn't heard back. And that was, 10 days ago. And previously the recruiter was calling her every day. So I just want to say that, like, I think that it's wonderful, and I think we should be open. And if we have the privilege to choose a job that will embrace our family, and that is great. But I also think that there are some women out there, and the reality is we know discrimination is happening. Mm-hmm. And so I actually said to this woman, I was like, I'm all for transparency. I think it's great to have the offer. And once you have the offer, you can then say, I'm actually 22 weeks pregnant. I'm really excited to get going, because at least then you've got some legal recourse. At least then it's a clear discrimination case. Whereas now, if she doesn't get the job, she's trying to decide, does she, get a lawyer involved? It's really hard to prove that. And so I just want to say that just to sort of point out, I think you need to protect yourself. I'm all about vulnerability, authenticity, but I also think, there are some people who are not as lovely as everyone in this session. And I think you need to protect yourself to get the outcome that you're looking for as well.
I also think in that specific example, it would read to me, if I were interviewing her, like she was already submitting in that interview setting the ways in which she may not be able to be called upon to her full extent. Like it doesn't, I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think the setting for that disclosure, while the disclosure is meaningful, is the interview.
Right, exactly. And I was talking to her and her husband actually, and I said to him,
we are conditioned, we women. Yeah.
Right. Like as if there's something to hide, right?
She's talking about a position. She's interviewing for a position. She's entirely qualified for the position, whether or not she's pregnant.
Yes, right. And we know that, right? And that's the unfortunate thing, like you said, like the discrimination definitely happens. So, yeah. All right. So I'm going to wind this up. And again, this has been amazing. I just want to close with this. First of all, Meggie, PepTalkHer. That is an amazing app. I've downloaded it myself. I get my tips and my inspirations. It's wonderful. But what I love about it really is it is an opportunity for women to come together and have something where they connect and they read. And you also work in corporations as well, which I think is pretty amazing. You come in and you work to close that. You want to say anything about that for a quick second? And then.
Yeah, just on the app, I'm delighted that you've downloaded it. Let us know feedback. It's free to download. It's on Apple, it's on Android. Apple featured us globally in their app store a couple of months ago, and we were review bombed. So we had like hundreds of trolls, all the haters, all the misogynists come on and leave all these like, some of them were actually quite violent reviews. So we had to have them removed. But anyway, that's just part of the work that we're all doing. But so the app's there. We call it like a Fitbit for your career. I think that's the best way to describe it. Okay. Just kind of like nudging you along to be like, hey, how awesome were you today? Like thinking and checking in and keeping track of those things so that when you have these conversations, it's not a mad panic. You've got it all there. You've got it documented. You've got the dates. You've got the photos, all that stuff to help advocate for yourself. So I'd love to know everyone's thoughts. Let me know what you think. We're always iterating the product. And then, so for us, we primarily monetize through our work in-house with Fortune 2000 companies. And like everyone, very concerned about the impact of coronavirus. Fortunately for us, we've noticed that great companies are actually investing in their people right now and really looking to continually professionally develop their people. So we haven't been busier, which is kind of wild. And I'm conscious of how lucky that we are in that respect. So working in-house for large companies, providing that professional development remotely, which has been really fun. All
right, excellent. And Alex, your book, which is out now, Ask for More. 10 questions to negotiate anything. I've read excerpts up from it online and I cannot wait to get a hold of it. I was hoping to have it to hold up today. So anything you wanted to say about that?
Yeah, it's been out for a week. My first week, for some of the reasons I mentioned earlier, was a little bit more challenging than we expected. But the book is doing extremely well. And so I would love it if people felt they wanted to support the book. You can find it online. I'm not in any bookstores. I'm not in the airports, but that's okay. I can just be with you at your kitchen table or in your ears as you're going for your social distance walk. I also do a large amount of training and consulting for companies and organizations. My mission is empowerment and equity through negotiation. I want to partner with places that want every person to reach her highest and best, and where we are working as a collective to create the kind of equitable society we all want to see. And so if that mission is a match for anybody, feel free to reach out to me. I'm at alexcarterasks.com.
Yes. Awesome. Well, I can't wait to read your book. And, I saw a review. Somebody actually said that you are the first woman to write a book of this type that goes out ahead of the pack of men. Like it actually tops what men have written, which I think is amazing. It's the first of its kind. So congratulations to you. That is amazing.
Thank you.
And Daniella, you are a New York City broker. Thank you so much for being here. I love it.
My pleasure. It was awesome. You're all awesome. This was so inspiring. I loved it.
Yeah, good. And Marg, we're definitely going to turn into All Rise.
Yes, we were picked up for another season.
I saw that. Congratulations. Congratulations.
How we're going to go about doing that is still kind of up in the air, because having a big group of people together, like television and film works.
Yes.
How do you do that, and remain socially distant? And anyway.
Yes. Yeah, it's tough.
But this has been so inspiring. I agree. I mean, I'm getting this book. I'm downloading that app. It's just, wow.
It's great. And I thank you all. We went way over time, but we, you know, and I did not, I just want to say to the crowd, I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question. We have a lot here. You know, please feel free to email them to me, and I will email them to the person that they're meant to be, and I will make sure that you get them answered. I am beyond inspired by all of you. I thank you for tuning in, and Meggie making it from Australia. That's amazing, right? So you all have a fantastic day. This will be recorded, and I will polish it up, and I will post it at the Visionary Collective, which is thevisionc.com. And I look forward to our next, anytime I see any of you ladies, but I really am so grateful and look forward to seeing you all. And stay safe and stay healthy and take care of your loved ones and take it a day at a time, okay?
All right.
Great. Thanks, ladies.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.